It's October 2020. Something was brewing that no one saw coming, that literally shook the foundations of Nigeria.
I'm supposed to move forward.
It started as an agitation over the endless cases of police brutality, then to a full-blown revolution. For days, it seemed like the country had descended into anarchy. Police stations and government offices were attacked and burned, and with the military hiding in the barracks. For a matter of days, what seemed like a revolution dissipated into a missed opportunity. So what really happened in the weeks of October 2020? Why did the EndSARS protest fail? It all started on 3rd October 2020, just 2 days after Independence Day celebrations. Nicholas Makolomi, a videographer in the town of Ughelli in Nigeria's Delta State, saw a boy jumped out of a moving police car in front of him. Whether he jumped out on his own or was pushed out was unclear, but he appeared injured. Makolomi and his friend trailed and recorded the police officers suspected to be members of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS for short. A white SUV believed to be owned by the injured youth could be seen ahead of the police car. It was allegedly being driven by a SARS officer in what the public interpreted as carjacking. Upon hitting social media, Makolomi's video went viral, tapping into the existing youth anger against SARS. Other SARS brutality videos unrelated to the incident so flooded the internet, sparking a mob attack in Ughelli on an off-duty SARS officer who was eventually rescued. But the police traced and arrested Makolomi on October 5th for inciting violence and false information. Public anger had already hardened on social media, followed by unrest in Ughelli. The police clamped down on the unrest as well as the emergence of more footage of police sadism sustained the conversations online. Douglas Ago, a Nigerian Afrobeat musician known as Runtown, tweeted that he would lead a protest on October 8th. #EndSARS. The hashtag was already in use as a symbol of long-ignored outrage. In an attempt to thwart the protest, the Nigerian police spokesperson, Frank Mba, reached out to Naira Marley, a Nigerian musician who, with the rapper Falz, had voiced support for the October 8th protest. On the day of the action, Marley's massive supporters had gathered in Agege, a sprawling local council in Lagos State. They waited despondently for him, but they failed to show up. An equally high-rated R&B singer named Small Daughter did turn up, however, and pulled the large crowd to Alausa, Ikeja, the office of the Lagos State government. With Nigerians seeing the size of the crowd, the game changed instantly. Comedian Macaroni and Tacha, a star of the Big Brother Nigeria reality TV show, led another gathering in Lagos the next day. The momentum grew and drew even more celebrities who mobilized their followers on social media. The Macaroni-led group converged on Alausa, refusing to leave until someone addressed them. Since no one responded, they slept on the open street. Images of their night watch triggered patriotic fervor never before seen among Nigerian youth. Even after the state government officials addressed them the next day, they demanded action. Public distrust of the government was further aggravated when Nigeria's Inspector General of Police announced the disbandment of SARS, only to introduce a new unity called Special Weapons and Tactics, or SWAT team. The protests continued over the following days despite brutal police attacks, as the mother of all matches was scheduled in Rivers State for October 13th. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike instantly banned the planned protest, apparently misreading the public mood. But the youth had had enough. The defiance produced a gathering of 10,000 people, the largest the new movement had seen, which sent a strong message to powers that be in Nigeria and inspired even more people to join. And soon, the protest was common scene in many states in the country. With daily simultaneous protests across other states came the challenging of funding and crowd discipline. The protest had no central leadership, so organizers leading each gathering took care to ensure order. Call for funding to provide for health emergency services and volunteers to help manage activities on protest grounds. Aware that protests can sometimes degenerate into violence, they introduced entertainment. It began with serving of water and light snacks and full meals, including to the security officers dispatched to the protest venues. In addition to food, as crowds surged each day, there was music shows and art performances. Its altruistic action had a multiplier effect. Though more volunteers turned up, including over 200 lawyers helping to bail out arrested protesters, and more people marched and donated. Then came the Feminist Coalition, a Nigerian pro-equality group, which was started months earlier in July. The group, in collaboration with money transfer startup Flutterway, created a central fund for donations. They shared the link on social media, which was retweeted by many Twitter users, including the then Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey. Feminist coalitions injected credibility into the funding by accounting for the proceeds and disbursements on a daily basis. But the donation lake was soon disabled by the Nigerian Central Bank, as the government panicked about the flood of cash. The group, however, switched to cryptocurrency, and authorities went violent in apparent desperation. And with the growing momentum, the movement's scope of demands expanded from just police reform to total reformation of the country's governance and institutions.
We are tired of this nation as it is. We need good governance. We need good governance.
In their 7-point demand, which even called for the reducing the cost of governance, restructuring the country, and other social reforms, a full-blown revolution. Attempts were made to hijack the protests. Government vehicles were seen picking up some armed persons off the streets and releasing them around the protest venues in Abuja and Lagos. Protesters were attacked by armed strangers who hijacked the protests, and states reported jailbreak in those states. However, organizers in Lagos, which was the center of the protests, were still able to maintain crowd control as protesters kept daily vigil at the Lekki Toll Gate, a high borough area of Lagos, before the mayor descended on the night of October 20th. Then the previous day of the government's intentions to deploy the army into the scene, protesters sat peacefully on the ground, sang the national anthem, and waved the national flag that evening as soldiers arrived. Unprovoked, the officers from the Nigerian army proceeded to shoot into the crowd. After removing various CCTV cameras and offing the light station at the scene just hours before. By the end of the day, about 40 persons were allegedly killed, with many wounded.
See, soldiers just killed someone now. Soldiers just killed someone.
GTA Switch, a Nigerian popular entertainer and streamer, was on ground and streamed the shooting live at the risk of her life.
For the CNN, BBC, just call them. Make una do the interview. All of CNN.
News of the shooting sparked violence in Lagos as rioters unconnected to the protest began a burning and looting spree the next day. Other states soon broke into violence that lasted over a week, which targeted police stations as well as other public and private properties. In order to aggravate an already tense situation, both the government and organizers at various levels called for the suspension of the campaign. Global and local outrage at the shooting compelled the Lagos state government, which initially denied inviting the army, but later admitted doing so, to set up judicial panels of inquiry. Meanwhile, an investigative report by the Premium Times indicted the state government, the police, and the Nigerian army in the carnage and confirmed the killings. Pent-up youth anger endures over the incident. The hashtag "It is not finished" trended days after, keeping the spirit of the agitation alive. Ever since, nothing can really be said to have changed. But the question is, what did the movement really achieve? Has the country really gotten better since? Your guess is as good as mine. Then, why did it fail? Contrary to mainstream opinions, the EndSARS movement didn't stop with the shootings at Lekki Toll Gate. In fact, it opened the Pandora's box as clearly the country descended into anarchy that, if it was well utilized, could have led to revolution. You see, the problem with the EndSARS movement also lies with its biggest strength. It was organic. Hence, being organic meant that organizing it can be a lot more challenging, as it proves to be, with the variations of objectives and approach. You see, whereas for many it was a movement for an end to police brutality, for others it was a call for total transformation of the country, whereas for others they saw it as a means to unturn the whole system, more like a power grab. These variants in objectives meant that the approach would differ, with no real leader nor face of the movement. Negotiating it would become a problem, and hijacking it was very easy. With no central leadership, what started as a civil rights movement descended into total chaos after October 20. By the 25th, the movement had lost steam and support of the various organizers, fearing the nation descending into oblivion. And that brings us to the next point, the government interventions. When we say government interventions, we don't just mean only government crackdowns on the protests. You see, you might argue the government to be evil, but they are manned by calculated individuals, like really calculated individuals. You see, the government embarked its own misinformation campaign against the protests, especially in the north, telling them that the protest is just a plot by the south to overthrow its government, which was led by a northerner. First, whereas on one hand we had anti-government protests in the south, we are seeing pro-government protests in the north. These were also made by government officials, notably the Lagos State Governor himself, to join the protest in solidarity. However, this was more of a political ploy to delegitimize, gaslight and discredit the real protesters and project theirs as merciful and prolonging of the protest as unnecessary, since we are all in the same page, right? This gives voice to critics, calling the sustained protest as another alien ploy to destabilize the country. Still on government intervention, the government employed its own traditional tactics of protest hijacking, as we will see with the footage of armed hoodlums being carried on government vehicles, thus creating a precedent for violence for their violence crackdowns. In fact, most of the violence before October 20 were actually government sponsored, directly or indirectly. Then, following the carnage at the toll gate and its subsequent upheaval, the government played one of its best calculations. You see, from the violence and the rioting, the government at various states, unlike expected, didn't go hard on the already pent-up populace, but rather took a reserved response. For the most, the government allowed the anarchy to pester for a few days, listing the military in most part to the barracks and the police too off the streets, while simultaneously as allegedly covertly encouraging hoodlums to sweep in during the carnage. As a result, not just government facilities were attacked, but in fact, private sector assets, banks and businesses were attacked and looted. In a matter of days, people were already tired of the lawlessness. As economic activities came to a halt, people increasingly grew weary of the anarchy and just wanted to go back to their businesses, as Nigeria's economy isn't designed for the sustained economic lockdown that comes with rioting. Also with this is the ethnic and political divide in the country, which in fact localized the protests to the south. See, Nigeria is a country where ethnic origin and identity defines and judges a person and his actions. While certain parts of the country were calling out the government's incompetence, those in the many states of the north, in fact, were seeing the protest as a southern move to move their person from power. Little wonder their recent protests against Tinubu's government in the hashtag End Bad Governance protest was viewed with the same apprehension in the south. Same was also in display even in the south, as some Yorubas came to tag the protest as Igbo agenda to destroy Lagos, even when there wasn't any part of the southeast that wasn't experiencing the same burning and looting, which in fact is laughable. But that goes to show you how divided the country is to have a serious movement. So the EndSARS movement didn't fail as usually allocated by the crackdowns of the government, even though that could have served as a factor, but in fact, its very own inability to have a well-defined leadership, direction, spread, and heart to carry it to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Support this channel by liking this video and subscribing, as it keeps us making more great content like this. On to the next one. This is Vista.